I'm about to hit 1 million followers on Instagram, all without spending a dime on ads. When everyone else was chasing the algorithm, posting 10 times a day, I did something that most people would say is impossible. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 systems across content, design, and funnels, and show you how each part of this Instagram flywheel feeds the next part to make things grow exponentially. Let's get into it. Part 1, exponential content creation. The first part of the flywheel solves the biggest problem that every entrepreneur faces: how to go and create enough content without just becoming some creator that's stuck on the content hamster wheel. This is where most entrepreneurs get it wrong. They think they need to be creating content every single day, but sure enough, this is just a recipe for burnout. Now, the reality is there has to be a better way. And this is where the content waterfall system comes in. Just last month, I wrote a post on systems thinking, and that one core idea became a pillar piece of content in a YouTube video. I was then able to take clips from that and turn it into 3 Instagram Reels, 3 TikTok posts, and 3 YouTube Shorts, as well as a newsletter for 6 weeks later, 3 LinkedIn posts, and 3 X threads. This allows you to take one idea and repurpose it so you're not on the content hamster wheel. The key is having templates that never change, so you can just keep on swapping out ideas and feeding them into the same formats. This is how you go and create content and become multiplied as a founder. All right, so right here, you can see that I have 1 LinkedIn post pulled up, right? I've hired 90 plus high performers in the last 3 years. Here are 8 traits I see in every high performer. And so into this post, I get into the 8 core traits like grit, relentless resourcefulness, optimism, constant learning, not being an asshole, being fun to be around, growth mindset, and enjoying responsibility. This one post was something that I woke up to on a Monday, had this idea for this post that I thought would be a banger, wrote it out, and that was that. Now, I'm going to show you how this one pillar piece of content for LinkedIn went and became 20 plus other pieces of content. So here you can see on Instagram, we've taken that same piece of content from LinkedIn and then turned it into an Instagram carousel. And so we have 8 rare traits I see in every high performer. This is over 21,000 likes, over 9 million views, right? But it's the same content from LinkedIn. So we've simply just repurposed this into a carousel and good to go, right? At the end of this, the cool thing too is that we use the ManyChat feature, which I'll show you here in just a couple minutes, to go and get people to comment the word coffee. And when they do that, there's an automation that happens in my DMs on Instagram that drives people from the DMs to a workshop that I'm running in about 10 days. So from here, you can see same deal on X. Inside of X, I've gone and combined that same post with this really high value image that I had my team create. We posted this up and it generates another 250,000 views, right? So this is the power of the content waterfall, in action, right? You can see that first post got around 3 million views, but the subsequent posts have gotten around 10x that. And so it also becomes an X thread. This one in this case got 1.8 million views. And again, it's just that same content from LinkedIn. So no more work on my side, no new content creation. It's simply just maximizing the content, time, and energy that I put into that original post and getting the maximum amount out of it. So same deal here. This has now gone and become a community post on YouTube. It's also going to become a long form YouTube video that you'll see coming out on my channel in the next few weeks. And then we also are able to go and repurpose it again on LinkedIn in around 3 months later. What you're seeing here is content multiplied. So the cool thing is that you have an enormous amount of potential to use these kinds of systems when you have your template set up. I have templates for things like carousels on Instagram or the different ways that we do stories on Instagram so that I don't need to go and come up with new formats constantly. We can just reuse the stuff that we've seen work and then just sub in new content. This makes it easier for me to think about the content ideas I need to create because I know the format they're going to be in. It's also way easier for my designer, Yan, to go and then take my ideas and then format them into a way that we know will work. When you have formats that work, it just makes your life easier. But let me go and show you a little bit behind the scenes of the formats that I've seen work on Instagram over the last 90 days so you can go and use them for your account. All right, so here we are in my Instagram dashboard. We're looking at the insights over the last 90 days, and we'll rank my content by the most amount of views. And so here you can see some interesting patterns as to the kind of content that's performing best, as well as the formats that are absolutely hitting on the platform. Here's an example. You can see that a lot of the different formats that are working are this one style of carousel. So again, it's pretty simple, right? It's just got the bits of advice over about 8 slides, and then the final slide of the carousel carousel then leads people to a DM automation, getting them to go and comment 30 in this case to get my 30-day CEO transformation playbook. So when they comment 30 on the post, we then go and DM them a playbook and also get their phone number and email in exchange for that. These people then go and join the Founder Us newsletter, which is the only newsletter to help you go and scale your personal brand. And inside of there, they may eventually become leads to my different portfolio companies. And so this is not just how to grow your Instagram, but also how to drive from content all the way through to profit. So in terms of some other patterns we can see here, first off, they're all carousels, right? Carousels are the core format that is blowing up on Instagram. Also, some of the key ways you can see I'm starting this content are with numbers like 8, 9, and 10. You can see a lot of them start with words like how to or how I. Most of these posts have some sort of number on that first slide. You can leverage this to go and use this sort of format for your own Instagram. I don't put much text on each slide. That way it's super scrollable. And our goal too is on each slide of the carousel to be making it where it's easy for someone to go and share that to their stories and it makes sense. It just results in more shares, and more shares equal more virality. 4 hours a week can create content for your entire week. Here's how it breaks down. 1 hour is dedicated to actually going and planning out over 20 different hooks. From there, hours 2 and 3 can be spent actually filling in that content with the relevant systems, blueprints, playbooks, and deep dives. After that, you want to make sure that you have all the right CTAs set up on the content so you can drive people from content to leads, and then create any relevant lead magnets that are needed for those pieces of content so you're able to drive the leads through to the lead magnet and eventually sell those people. This is the content to revenue bridge, and this is how you build your own profitable personal media company. Part 2, magnetic brand design. Now here's the part that separates successful accounts from everyone else just posting into the void. It's about getting people to actually stop the scroll and follow you. Most content gets scrolled past in just 0.3 seconds, but I'm going to show you how to actually go and stop the scroll. All right, so here we're going to go and open up my Instagram, and I'm going to give you a bit of a deep dive as to how I look at things. Here you can see, first off, clean profile picture and the one-liner, proven systems to grow a profitable audience with content. So it's super clear why you should follow me and what exactly I can help you with. From there, we have an automation set up via ManyChat, which I'll show you here in a second, that allows people to go and learn more about Founder OS and how they can scale their personal brand with us. Now, from there, you can see over the last 30 days, the strategy I'm showing you here has driven us over 34.9 million views. The cool thing there too is that we've done that all without spending a dime on ads. Now, the grid here kind of has this light, dark sort of effect, right? And then you can see I'm using those Instagram insights we saw to go and make sure that each post and carousel has that white background, black text. I have a few different formats here, right? We have cut downs from my long form videos as one format. So this is a cool way of using that content waterfall system from a YouTube video and using those for cuts on our Instagram Reels. We obviously have our carousel format, which cranks and typically has 8 slides with a call to action at the end. I then have raw videos where I just film these off of my iPhone, send it to my social team, and then use Instagram's edits functionality to just simply go and edit up a reel using the platform and then post it. Pro tip there is it's a lot better to go and actually edit your reels inside of Instagram because it's going to be more promoted via their algorithm. In addition to that, we like to go and create just other creative trending topics. So I'll oftentimes go and save different inspiration on Instagram into my different collections. So you can see in my saved collections, I have a bunch here, right? But I have a whole brand collection that has a bunch of cool branded videos and such that have inspired me. And so I'll oftentimes use the inspiration in my different Instagram collections. We also have an OS Content Studios Instagram messaging group where if I find different content or my team does that we really like, we may go and use those formats to go then and become different formats for our upcoming reels. As a team, we're constantly going and sharing different stuff that we love. We're saving it to different collections. We have a weekly content meeting where we're all sharing different inspiration. And what this allows us to do is essentially just go and crowdsource the best formats and ideas. And so it's basically 50% carousels and 50% reels. And this is what's allowed me to grow my followers upwards of 90,000 per month. Not every month, but That's many months, and just shows you the power of this content strategy. The truth is that taste is the ultimate competitive advantage. And in every 9 parts of your grid on Instagram, you should be telling a complete story. When you look at my grid, you can see that every piece of it is intentional. 3 colors, 2 core formats, and 1 key message in everything that we do. When you go and hit my profile, about 20% of people on average go and then follow me, compared to most accounts where it's just around 1%. So that's 20x more follows than the average person. When you go and you communicate a clean brand, people can tell. It's kind of like, a luxury brand, right? People really focus on things like being handmade, making sure there's a story and heritage behind it, and that people can see the craftsmanship that went into every piece of it. I approach Founder OS and my personal brand the same way. I want people to understand the story behind what we're building. This idea that, we're trying to do for founders what, Apple did for creatives in the 70s and Nike did for athletes in the 80s. I'd recommend making sure that you're intentional about every piece of content you create. For carousels, it's things like the copy on each slide, the design, the caption you put on it, and the way that you run different automations on the platform. For things like stories, it's being authentic, showing behind the scenes and giving people a glimpse into your actual life. For reels, it's being authentic, taking your phone, you don't need any fancy equipment, and just recording who you are, what you're up to, and taking pride in your hooks, because if you can't go and nail the first 3 seconds, well, you're not going to capture anyone's attention. And I approach my Instagram grid with the same level of craftsmanship. I want people to go and arrive on my profile and have an amazing first impression. Here's how to make your content so recognizable that they know it's yours before they even see your name. The key thing is to make sure, number 1, that you have your formats nailed down. Number 2 is that you have a clean brand aesthetic that is visually appealing, but also recognizable. For me, it's using the same font, the same colors, and making sure that I'm using the overall same content categories, which leads me to the third part, which is that you should generally have some content buckets you go for. For me, it's things like, helping founders with systems, it's personal stories, and then it's giving you organic content strategies. The 3 of these combined equal my brand online and the promise for why people should even follow me in the first place. It's 1 part value, 1 part storytelling, 1 part behind the scenes. And the merger of this is what builds my powerful personal brand. In a world where people are posting stuff all of the time, it's important that you actually take a step back and try to define, what your brand aesthetic is and how you're going to stand out versus other people. I think there are a few awesome tools for this, including Cosmos, Pinterest, in my mind. These tools allow you to go and save some beautiful designs and concepts all across the internet so that the next time you're looking to go and evolve your brand, first off, you can go and create your own brand mood board. When you've created your brand mood board, you're thinking about images, colors, videos that encapsulate the general vibe you're going for. This is what then translates into the formats you create. So let's break down this aesthetic and how it all comes together. Well, first off, I'm going to bring you into our company Figma. Figma is a design tool that allows you to go and organize all of your design resources in your company and then share them and work on them as a team. And so here we have, as an example, our grid preview, right? This is typically what our grid will look something like, a mix of amazing photos, videos, and carousels. And so here you can also see it kind of has that light and dark pattern, right? So that it just visually looks stimulating. We also have sort of a photo or video and then carousel pattern. So it all looks consistent. And as you scroll the feed, you can tell it's intentionally put together. When it comes to the carousels themselves, we have guidelines for all of this stuff. Again, intentionality is everything. So here's a bit of the anatomy of our paper carousels. First off, we have a background with blurred text. It has that paper texture, right? So there's different irregularly shaped backgrounds of that blurred out paper so that, it looks like there's a real book you're reading in a way that has that kind of translucent effect. We then have the key word of the hook always in italic and bold, right? So in this case, how to make your personal brand uncopyable. That uncopyable word, we highlight it. In addition to that, you can see that we always go and put the text in a minimal looking way, centering it inside of the carousel, right? So that there's a title, there's a body, and we will bold any key phrase. This makes it highly shareable where people can't help but go and share an individual slide to their stories, only further boosting that carousel in Instagram's algorithm. There's a lot of science behind this art, as you can see. From there, we also love to go and sprinkle in these minimalist graphics, things like graphs, charts, different illustrations to kind of mix it up a bit. And so it's not just our carousels, right? We have, Google Docs as well. For each of our carousels, we oftentimes go and have a lead magnet that we give at the end of them. The lead magnet people get by going and putting in a certain keyword in the comments, and then we go and DM them that via ManyChat. I, at this point, have created over 140 lead magnets over the last 2 years, everything from hiring to a CEO scorecard to creating an intentional content on things like YouTube and LinkedIn. And so it's these lead magnets that actually currently drive around 80% of the revenue to FounderOS, which is pretty nuts. You wouldn't imagine it, but things like Google Docs and Google Slides can be that powerful. Here you can see a wall of these paper carousels. We make a lot of these, about 3 per week, 12 per month, and it's a high performing content format. Let's move on to another format here. In this case, you can see this different sort of texture, which is just kind of more of like an old vintage paper sort of texture, okay? We've gone and we've curated different references from Pinterest that we really liked, and then leveraged these to create our own format. In this case, we have these carousels that are kind of on a crinkled piece of paper that follow more or less the same pattern I just showed you. In addition to that, we're showing my key framework. So the key thing here is not just the design in terms of the visuals, it's also the design as it pertains to the copy. It's clear, not clever. It's at an 8th grade reading level. I'm making sure that I'm making content that's super simple. So I'm describing complex ideas in a simple way, so it's highly shareable. And we're breaking it down in ways that you can understand it simply, using systems, rhythms, blueprints, things that will allow you to package it up nicely and be able to tell it to your friend in a way that just makes sense. We always at the end of these carousels have, a lead magnet that we give away so that, again, we're being insanely generous with our content. My hope is that below a given carousel, people go and comment, "I can't believe this is free." And we make it impossible for them to not share it, with 10 of their friends. And that's what success looks like. So let's move on to the different story formats that we have here as well, okay? So when it comes to stories, those are a little bit different. The key thing I do here is oftentimes just take photos when I'm out and about in different cities. I save those to my camera roll, and every Friday I do a mass upload to my Slack, to my designer and my social media manager, so they can go and post these throughout the week. The key thing is that you want to give people a little bit of behind the scenes as to what you're up to. And so here you can see different examples of, posts around the founder hikes that we do all around the world. In this case, we're inviting people to go and do a founder hike in Lisbon. When they go and comment hike here, we then add them to a WhatsApp group, then drop an all trails location to an upcoming hike that we have. In addition to that, we also have these kind of raw stories that I also do to promote different YouTube videos as they come out. We publish YouTube videos every Tuesday and every Friday, core systems that I use to run my portfolio of online businesses. And a big promotion engine for those YouTube videos is Instagram. This is the powerful thing about having an omnipresent content strategy, is that you can be using the growth on your Instagram to help feed the other platforms that you exist on. In addition to that, you can also see that, we're going and sharing, again, YouTube videos in different formats. One thing I've learned here is that when you share YouTube videos, it's good to really sell people on the exact concept and what they can find in it, because you're not just trying to drive the click, you want to actually drive watch time of that video as well. If you're just driving people and then they bounce on the YouTube video, it may actually cause it to get worse performance. So, little insider tip there. So here's a little bit more of the inside scoop of how we got my profile to over 950,000 followers. In the background here, right, you can see some of our top performing formats. And the cool thing is, right, that these all look relatively the same. Today, you can see the strategy, alone from these carousels is driving over 14 million views, and our account is growing at over 58% month over month. Part 3, connecting content to revenue. But even if you master the last system, this is where millions of beautiful Instagram accounts go to die, because they get millions of followers but make $0. And so I'm going to show you how to go and fix that. Go and survey people that are your customers and ask them things like, what's your biggest goal this year? What's your biggest challenge? And if I could wave a magic wand, what problem would you want me to help you with? From there, you can go and get a list of stuff and say a type form, upload it to ChatGPT and say, hey, go and create 100 content ideas and how-to formats and how-I formats that go and solve these core problems for my dream customer. The key thing here is that we're actually going and helping people with the stuff that they genuinely care about. And when your content solves that, it's only natural that they go and work with you. Let me show you how I go and connect engagement on Instagram with real revenue and a real sales process. So what I'm going to share with you is one of the most powerful systems that lives inside of my Instagram. It's called ManyChat. It allows us to collect information, emails, phone numbers, and then send followers free value. This is how I've grown an insane audience through automations. And what I'm going to go is break down the exact automation flow for you here. Now, one of the main thing I want to show you here is our DM center, right? This is where we go and have all of our different automations and give away all of the free resources that you see on my Instagram carousels. There's two kinds of resources here, ones that add value and then ones that add visibility. And I'm going to break them down for you a bit here. These are all of the free systems that I give away on my Instagram. We organize them into a folder called free resources. And then inside of that, you can go and see a lot of the best resources like, my 1% CEO transformation systems. This is also where I give my 21 days of profit acceleration email course, my 7-day AI email course. It all happens via these automations. First thing here is that the user engages with our content, right? Via a comment or a DM. From there, then when they comment the word 50, that keyword then is a trigger for the free resource. So we have triggers for a ton of different stuff like 15, 30, free, you name it. It triggers different lead magnets and different automations in ManyChat. What we then do is then have a welcome message that people get. That welcome message also goes and tags that lead, gives them the resource, and then also make sure they're added to our CRM and HubSpot so that a lead is linked with a core resource that they came in from, which allows us to then register them in a way that we can then have that data to market to them in new and interesting ways, knowing the kinds of stuff that they're into. So in this case, someone's really into systems and personal branding. So we're going to go and give them access to that free resource once they've gone and given us their email and potentially their phone number. So from there are different pathways people go, right? The first step is that they want the resource and we give it to them and they go down that path. The second path is that they say that they're not interested and then the whole automation just stops. The second step then is once the user has engaged, we then give them the content and they're actually going to go and get this whole resource, which typically is either in a Google Doc or in Google Slides. All along the way, we're tagging different people, right? So this is all getting organized into a robust way, but it also feels very organic and superhuman, right? We're making sure that the messages are actually handcrafted by me so that they sound like me. So we're trying to give an insane amount of generosity, make it feel human, while also going and showcasing the power of our automations and systems. And so if a founder goes and wants a given lead magnet, they just click yes, we'll send that over to their email, and voila, they have it. I think that so many people go and treat their audience just like some number, and we want to go and treat each person in my audience as if it was our best friend, really helping them out, helping them overcome challenges and obstacles, and make sure that every interaction that we have with them dazzles them. I think when you stack this up over years, that's how you create a brand that matters. The metrics most people care about have zero correlation with actually driving revenue. But these three metrics I'm about to show you are the ones that actually matter. This is going to show you the difference between content ROI and just some vanity metrics. So first off, you want to look at email signups per post. We go and track this all through HubSpot so we can understand via HubSpot and ManyChat which carousels we're putting out drive the most leads. Inevitably, you want your content to convert to your owned audience because you don't own Instagram, but you should own a newsletter. And each post should be driving folks to that list. So that is metric number one. Your second metric is your revenue per follower. You should know your cash collection per month per platform and then be able to know which posts are driving you the most revenue. You can easily do this when you have the right tagging system on the back end in ManyChat and HubSpot. We use HubSpot as our core CRM inside of FounderOS. It allows us to tag different people based on where they came in. This allows us not just to understand our profit per subscriber, but also understand which content is converting best so that we can go and double down on those content topics. You also want to know your Instagram Instagram conversion rate from traffic, right? Of the amount of traffic you're driving from Instagram, how many of those people are becoming customers? Where this becomes interesting is that, let's just say in June, you were pursuing one content strategy and you changed that up a little bit in August. Well, it would be nice to know that based on the amount of traffic that you drove to your website or to your apply page or a landing page, how much of that traffic actually converted and which strategy was more efficient with the traffic. So when you understand conversion rates, you can understand and make tweaks to your content, to your topics, and your overall approach. Part 4, building a team. Here's the bottleneck that kills most companies before they even start gaining momentum. You need to get the right team on board in the right order. Here's why the fastest growing accounts aren't run by the hardest working founders, they're run by the smartest hiring founders. One of the biggest things you can do if you're looking to grow your account is get great at delegating. The reality is that you shouldn't just be building a personal brand. You need to be building a personal media company and moving from the creator behind your brand to the CEO. So this all comes down to then having the right people in the right seats. First off, it's having a social media manager on board to help be that head of distribution, making sure that you're putting the right content in the right format at the right time of the day with the right caption, so you don't have to have your finger on the trigger 7 days a week and can instead be getting some support. From there, you're probably going to want to go and bring on a designer. Generally around $3K per month, this is the person that's going to help make your account and your grid visually stunning. The next aspect then is an editor. Going and creating reels every day takes a hell of a lot of time. And video editors, they're maestros at this. So you can get generally going with someone for around $3,000 to $5,000 per month and actually have someone professional going and helping you make your reels and your videos dialed in for performance. This team, you're kind of looking at 10 to 12K per month, which a lot of founders could look at and go, damn, that's expensive. But the thing is this, right? You got to look at everything as an investment. If the average customer to you is worth $10,000 of profit per year and your team costs between 10 to 12K, if that whole team brings on one incremental customer per month, they pay for themselves. So the reality is it's actually pretty insane not to get the right team in place, and you're leaving a ton of money on the table if you don't. All right, I'm going to go and show you how to go and determine whether that next hire you're going to make is actually going to make you money or just cost you a bunch of money. So this is my delegation math calculator, and you go and find this resource via the link in the description. And here's how it works. So let's just say we're gonna go and hire a social media manager, and that person is gonna go and cost us $7,000 a month as an example, okay? Now, hold your horses here. We don't know if this person actually makes sense because it's not about looking at the expense. It's about looking at the return on investment, which is what this calculator is all about. Let's just say that your revenue per hour, okay? If you are not focused on posting content, but instead we're on sales calls, let's just say that the revenue that you would generate per hour yourself is $2,000, okay? And let's just say that that social media manager is going to save you around 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month. Well, lastly, let's just say the profit margin of what you're building is 50%. Here we can see this delegation math in motion, okay? When you go and you reallocate those 80 hours a week that you're saving to actually going and generating that $2,000 per hour that you're worth, that's $160,000 of incremental revenue a month. At a 50% margin, that's $80,000 of profit. That is money on the table that you are leaving by doing all of this social media manager work that's candidly just below your hourly rate. So the profit after the hire, which is 80K minus 7K, is $73,000, which is a 10.4x ROI on that $7,000 social media manager salary. This is how you think about building your team, which is going and stacking your team with hires that have an insane ROI and delegating the stuff that you should not be working on so you can double down on the stuff that only you can do. This is the kind of stuff that we actually give founders inside of Founder OS. We have all the core systems for X, for LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and also for building your personal media company. And what I'm going to give you is some of the core systems for things like the social media manager scorecard, how to go and hire your own chief of staff, how to go and hire a designer with that scorecard, as well as a copywriter scorecard. And you can go and find all 4 of these inside of the description below and go and download them. If you're looking to go and get more systems just like this, you should definitely consider joining Founder OS. Get access to me, my C-suite, join founder retreats we host all around the world, and be able to hop on daily calls with my team to help get you the support you need as you're building your own personal media company. You can go and check it out and apply via the link in the description. But here's what separates the people that actually build this from the people that are just gonna go watch this video and do nothing. It all comes down to taking real action. Here's the good news. I've gone and synthesized every blueprint, automation, and playbook that you've seen in this video and put it into my Instagram flywheel blueprint, which you can go and get via the link in the description. I wanna see you take massive action, build your personal media company, and grow an amazing audience on your Instagram. I can't wait to see what you create, and let's win together.